Hey, peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment clip. I'm the man here that runs the channel Wood. Um, I know I'm getting to this extremely late. Wu Tang and American Saga. Looks like it's 10 episodes, and I was trying to. When did this thing release? Maybe that's not important. But obviously, man, I did the Wu Tang breakdown of the 4-part documentary. I believe that was on Showtime. Um, Huge Wu Tang fan. I'm not gonna say I'm the official guy on Wu Tang. Some of their catalog, especially the group albums, haven't always delivered. But I think you got to take into consideration the number of individuals that we're dealing with. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, man. Looking at this Wu Tang and American Saga, it's available to be streamed on Hulu. I know I only get like 2 minutes of people's time, a minute and a half or something, 45 seconds. So I think it's pretty dope, man. I've mentioned when I was doing my podcast, an audio only version of my podcast, I was mentioning as certain things as the podcast game was jumping off, and different digital content that, hip hop, in my opinion, like 90s hip hop and some of the stuff in the golden age, those aesthetics might be the right word, those types of sensibilities I think it's moved on to different forms than just an album now. So I think this is an extension of that. Obviously, it's bigger than a podcast. It's bigger than some digital series or channel on YouTube that's doing hip hop. I mean, it's a 10-part. It's a season with 10 episodes. But it looks like it's been received fairly well. On imdb.com, they have it at a 8.3 is out of 10, 8.3 stars out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter right now is at 80%. And then for the audience score, it's at 92%. And you can see that's a little crazy because the tomato meter, only 15 critics have even weighed in on it. 75 user ratings for us everyday folk that are watching it. But I heard and I didn't have a Hulu subscription. I got a ton of different subscriptions. Boxing has been heavy the past 3 weeks, so that's why I really hadn't got around to this lately, until now. But some things. Oh, so what I had heard was that it was very slow to get started. From like 2 or 3 episodes in, I was from one of my main partners that I talk music and the culture about or with. Said that it was kind of slow, and I got out of the gate, out of the blocks a little slow. So, and then like a few weeks later, same guy came back to me and said that it was picking up and was just very complimentary of it. So then I started getting intrigued on, to see it myself. But like I said, coming on the heels of the Showtime documentary, which the last 2 or 1.5 episodes of that documentary was kind of a disappointment to me. And I said why on that video. I don't need to go back into that now. But opening scene, I think, really draws Wu-Tang, would or should draw Wu-Tang fans in, diehard Wu-Tang fans in. This is something that I never knew about the group. In all of the magazines, the articles that I read back in the day, all of the Rap City, the Basement, MTV, MTV Raps, etc., 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 all of the things that I've watched of the crew over the years, some different documentaries, I don't ever recall the conflict that opens this show up, and that's that's Power and Sha, Raekwon, eventually Raekwon, played by Shamik Moore. They're shooting up this apartment that happens to belong to Dennis Coles, which if you listen to, and this is how it's coming together so quickly. I think they say each other's name, or at least Power's name is said, and then when it switches to Dennis Cole's house, you see the two brothers or two younger kids in a wheelchair, and then you see Dennis with the beard, and he might even had a do-rag on, maybe not. But you quickly put together here that this is Raekwon against Ghostface. I had never heard that. In all the times that I've heard how the group was formed, I've never heard of these two wanting to kill each other at some point, or attempting to kill each other, or do bodily harm to one another. That's new to me. I don't even think this was mentioned on the four-part documentary, which, if they knew some of this stuff was in the works, maybe they kept that under wraps because this was coming. And the show was created by this Alex Tse, and RZA. Alex T also did The Watchmen, the movie The Watchmen, back in the day, and also did Superfly. I wasn't a big fan of Superfly, which came out year 2018. And then he's doing some episodes of the new the Watchmen series. No, that's not it either. So just Watchmen, the movie from 2009, and then Superfly 2018, and then some other. He was a screenwriter of all of those, as well as some movie called Sucker Free City. But so let's get into it, man. It's like I said, it's 10 episodes. I just walked you through the opening scene where Power and Sha shoot up this apartment, and Dennis Coles, who becomes Ghostface, is kind of running around as these bullets are raining through his apartment, or through his family's apartment. And like I said, I'm intrigued because I'm like, I've never heard this, as I was just saying. So from right there, and I like I said, if you know the song, all that I got is you, or whatever the joint is that Ghostface wrote to his mom. He said a line about two brothers with muscular dystrophy. So you put that together. Then I think the next scene, it goes to Sha and Power. Well, Sha ends up splitting up, I believe, and he ends up over at the RZA's house, or in the RZA's basement, where RZA produces beats. And he takes the Tech 9 over to him and is like, hide this. You realize that's RZA. And then we immediately get into Divine, which is RZA's older brother. I think he's the older brother. He is the older brother. And then you start seeing like Divine is leading this, is running his little operation about selling drugs. And his objective is to get his hands on a key and start moving bigger weight. So right here, like I said, as a Wu-Tang fan, I'm picking up on the fact that there is these dudes who I've known to be a unit all these years, there was a deadly rivalry here between Power and Divine. And then, so let me not get ahead of myself. So like I said, when I start putting two and two together in the first 5 or 10 minutes of who's against who, and seeing like who, if they're shooting at Dennis Coles, they call him D Lover too. I think moments later you see that D Lover and Divine are Dennis Cole is kind of Divine's number 2, along with RZA, who's half out of the game because his mind is so much onto this production. So, like I said, that right there is enough to get me to buy in to see if these two were trying to kill each other at one point in time, and there was this huge rivalry between Power and Divine, then how the hell did these two guys combine together to form the entire Wu-Tang Clan and the business, the guys who were handling the business side of things for Wu-Tang Clan? Because Divine, was doing all of the like I said, formed a company and whatnot, and was kind of like the business manager of the group, or the I think business manager works. But then Power was also brought back into the fold at some point because he's an entrepreneurial dude too. Divine is an entrepreneurial guy, and so that's kind of what should get you to really bite in and see how this all comes together. So really quickly, man, I probably lost a whole bunch of people. That's cool, if you're not a fan of the series and taking a deeper dive on it. But just some of the standout characters, in my opinion, some of the brilliance in the casting, in my opinion. This kid that plays Old Dirty Bastard, who's known as Asan in this season 1, T.J. Adams is some of the things that he was doing with his mouth, and then the different movements, and then a texture. It's a tone in his voice that just his talking voice that's really just spot on. I was very very impressed with T.J. Adams, and that's Atoms. He was dope. Marcus Callender, who he was also in a show on VH1 a couple years ago called The Breaks. Marcus Callender plays Power. Seeing Power, who I think Power had a role in Belly, and so I've seen Power on some other stuff. He reminded me a lot of the real Power. I think Power's name is Darren Grant, maybe. He really put me in the mind of him. Another dope guy I thought, Julian Elijah Martinez, who plays Divine, another excellent. If you watch the Showtime documentary and as much time as they spent on Divine, perfect casting with that character right there. Also, I want to say this is Zoe Griggs, who plays Shuri, who's the sister of Divine and RZA, or Bobby, as he on here. He's Bobby Diggs. I was amazed and impressed at the role that they gave her in the show, and just the family side of the Diggs family, with Erica Alexander playing the mom from 227. I mean, not 227. A Single Life? Whatever the hell the show was with Queen Latifah back in the day. Living Single. I'm sorry. Living Single. But yeah, Erica Alexander, who was also in Get Out, but she plays the mother of the family, or the matriarch. Like I said, Divine has done some different things to get the family in a decent living arrangement, and then he's really focused on building his company, or his organization. So I was impressed with, like I said, Divine, who was cast, the guy that plays Divine. Shamik Moore as, or Sha, who plays Raekwon. He's a slimmer guy, I think, whereas all that I've known Raekwon, he's been, a huskier guy, or short and stocky. And so I think, they padded him up sometimes and put a little extra weight on him or something. But just from what I've known, and I've seen Raekwon in concert like 3 times here in Columbus, or down in Columbus, which is nearby, watching him work the stage, and just through the years getting a sense of what Raekwon is about away from the game, following him on Instagram. I really thought Shamik Moore does a phenomenal job as Raekwon, who's kind of late to come around to really focusing on being a rapper. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest. Ashton Sanders is Bobby, Diggs, RZA. It's just something about Ashton's acting that's weird for me. It's different things that he does in every movie that's just, I don't know. It just stands out for me, and I don't know. I don't want to say I hate the brother and dislike the brother. He does a decent job here as Bobby Diggs. One thing that's very difficult to do for a person like to play the RZA. The RZA has that speech. It's not an impediment, but it's a way that he talks. It's very. I couldn't imagine anybody, especially trying to rap that. That's very challenging. So I think Ashton Sanders is at a is that's a hell of an assignment to try to play RZA. I also liked the dude that plays Dennis Cole, Sadiq Saunderson. He reminds me of this British actor who's on the Deuce. I can't remember which he plays one of the pimps, but they kind of, when I was watching the Deuce the last couple of years, these two, I just kept seeing the other dude for some reason. But Sadiq plays he does his thing, and he I mean, as much as he says son, you really pick up on the fact that that's who Ghostface is, and I think that's one of the criticisms that I've heard is like people aren't able to associate which one of these characters is the Wu-Tang member. And like I said, I guess from everything that I've watched and listening to the albums and the catalog of everybody, of the entire Wu canon, I guess you would call it, I didn't really have a problem in picking up who is who. Maybe until you get Joey Badass, who comes in and he's Rebel INS or Inspector Deck. Another pretty decent cast. And then there's this kid on here named Hayes, who was very impressive in my opinion. I'm not knocking Dave East as Method Man. It is what it is with that one. I want to say that's about it. All of the standouts for me for the casting. Let me see if there. So anyway, like I said, just getting into the show, man. The Vincent Pastore's in here. Jamie Hector is here as a business manager. Bokeem Woodbine is involved. Malcolm Xavier is the guy who plays Hayes. He played a really interesting character, but I think that might be about it. But other than that, man, I know I'm 18 minutes into this now. Looking at I thought it was gonna be very difficult to tie together the lives of 9 men, and some of the characters you don't get a backstory on, like ODB. His family was in the Showtime documentary quite a bit, but you don't see where he comes from, where he lays his head here in the first season. What else? Like I said, so much time was given to Cherie, and I never heard that Ghostface was involved with RZA and Divine's sister. So that's an interesting little love story that kind of pops out of this whole thing. That's pretty dope. But anyway, man, let's trying to wrap this thing up here. Working through it, it was very interesting to see how these guys got from the introduction when Sha is getting ready to shoot up Dennis's home under the direction of Power, and we have these two rival groups, like I just said, with Divine and Power, and how there's this rivalry between Park Hill, which is I think Park Hill is Method Man, Sha and Power I think are more the Park Hill group, and then I think Stapleton is Ghostface, and then like the Diggs family, I think from what I was able to gather, are in between those two areas of Staten Island. So quickly into it, Divine is trying to grow this organization. Like I say, he's trying to get into moving heavier weight to really take his organization and everybody that's involved in his on his team to brighter things. Quickly that gets derailed because he gets arrested with some weight on him, and you kind of we kind of get into with him being removed. It creates a lot of instability in everything because now RZA is taken away from doing music to figuring out how to be involved, be hands on with the street stuff that he really wasn't into. And then Dennis Coles is just a frustrated young brother who wants to eat and to provide for his family. He's dealing with the struggle, the stress of being this, doing everything that's required of him because of his two brothers and their muscular dystrophy, and a mother who has she has a drinking problem, and he's just a young man. We don't get to know how old anybody is in here, where they are as 20-year-olds or 21, 22. We're not able to put any of that together. So Dennis, Ghostface, and RZA have to pick up, and they have to get a lawyer for Divine. They have to deal with Power and Sha, who Sha and RZA were in high school together, so they have a relationship and they've done some music together. But again, Sha is caught up in the streets and really working closely with Power. So that situation is going on. That's what was just dope about it. Like I said, as a Wu-Tang fan, you have to be intrigued in how this all plays out, because if you're like me, I didn't know these rivalries and just riffs really existed at the beginning of this whole thing. And so anyway, that's going on. And Divine had things on the cusp of them getting to moving a kilo of cocaine, right when he gets knocked. So after he gets knocked, his instructions, hey, let me do what I gotta do in here. I work with, I'll struggle behind this wall, but you need to take that money and you need to get that kilo and get things flowing the way that I have built things up. That's his instructions to Dennis and to Bobby. And then he tells Dennis on the side, like, man, Bobby's head is all in that music. I can't really depend on him the way that I really would like to. So I need you to help him out. But I need you to be the number one. But involve him in it, and you two guys make it work. And so they get out into that game, and Bobby does some things and adds some leadership and some problem solving. They get this spot where they're moving product out of, and things are going well. But this creates a problem for Sha and Power because the users in the neighborhood, the fiends, are going to the spot where Bobby and Dennis have set up. And so then meanwhile, over here on the side, I do like one thing that they did reinforce from the documentary is that Method Man really didn't want to have anything to do with the dope game. He just was like, even though he wasn't always doing the best throughout the 10 episodes as far as making money and moving along, he was like, yo, that ain't really my thing. He was doing some different stuff with music as well. So that's that. I'm trying to think what else. So basically, that's over the next 6 or 7 episodes, man. It's just how things kind of get away, how things get away from the streets, and how Bobby steers everybody towards music, and they do bring in the Jizza, Gary, who's the cousin of Bobby. Um, and so Gary and Bobby kind of move forward with these deals as soloists, which puts Bobby up with Tommy Boy Records, and then I think Gary is with the Genius is with Sleep Cold Chillin', I think is who he's with. So these two dudes start dipping their toes in the water as recording artists. And again, this is putting the weight on Dennis to run whatever little bit of the street organization that they have left, which is basically a skeleton crew at this point. But while he's doing this, Dennis is still out there trying to grind and still trying to provide for his family and play his part, in place of Divine. Divine's behind the wall is where he meets Cappuccino. They don't spend a whole lot of time on that. And then Divine basically has to plead down to being a user, a fiend, is why he had all this dope on him when he got caught. And he's able to get into a parole situation. And he gets out and he's still trying to figure out how he can help the family. But of course, the Hayes dude that I was just mentioning, who's pretty high up in the street game, he won't touch him until he gets off of the paper that he's on. Meanwhile, with that location that Bobby and Dennis set up, Power and Sha burn that down. So they don't have a place to pump out of no more. And during that time, Sha and Power are doing pretty well. They start doing really well with their game. So getting to the last 3 episodes, man. Bobby has went out on on a tour with Jamie Hector's character, Andre, who's a business manager. And he's managing, he's doing what he can with Bobby. And then Gary's career, the Genius, is kind of doing what it's doing, but he's not really blowing up. So they spend some time with how Bobby goes to get different pieces of equipment, and they don't spend a lot of time on him getting better with his production, and developing the sound that made them famous. But one thing that I'll say that gets very interesting is that I always thought that Bobby really, the RZA, I thought he really created all of the Shaolin, the Wu-Tang stuff, and incorporating all of that into, and even just deciding to be Wu-Tang. I really thought all of that was singularly RZA's responsibility, or it all flowed from him. But honestly, you find out that Dennis Coles is sitting up really studying these VHS tapes, and really between him and his 2 brothers with the muscular dystrophy, he's spending so much time watching this with him, and he really starts to look at this bigger than just the real lessons behind the kung fu movies and the Shaolin this and the Wu-Tang that. He really starts forming his own understanding with all of that. Anyway, he goes and he works with another producer besides Bobby. And it's 2 dudes that have, Method Man, who's known as Shotgun. He has a song out there representing Park Hill, and it was produced by Bobby. And then Dennis Cole is pissed off because he's like, man, what are you doing putting these Park Hill brothers on? And then he dissing us. So that's what creates the rift between Bobby and Dennis Coles. Dennis Coles goes off and works with another producer. I still haven't really gotten his name yet. I'm going to have to look that up. But he goes off and works with this other producer and makes a song that starts to pick up traction in Staten Island too. And so I'm getting ready to end this, trying to bring this home. So anyway, man, everybody kind of gradually comes back to we got to make it with this music thing. This street stuff is dangerous. It's no rules to it. Uh, and then with Bobby and Gary having some success, if everybody can focus the right way, it's a chance. It's tangible. It's not it's feasible that this could be the way that we all make it out. And then the last thing is that there's a big time. Now I understand why Raekwon, so many of his lyrics have always been talking about the dread, and talking about Jamaicans and all of this type of stuff, because there's a character on here named Cressy who was really a real boss. And he gets popped. Some undercover people take him under, and Raekwon, Sha, and Power had been in his mansion a couple of times. Cressy was starting to put together some entertainments. He was starting to dabble into the rap game, and noticed, and then he notices Sha's talents with rhyming, and was really getting ready to start putting some money in him. The only thing is, Power is like, man, the hell with that entertainment stuff, bruh. I need you here running the shop. So he's not really buying into, he's not really picking up on, the rap game as being a viable way to move forward and to succeed. So once Cressy gets taken down, he's been investigated and gets taken down, gets taken out of place. One of the people that was making moves underneath Cressy was the Hayes dude that I was talking about. He's killed in a police involved death or killing, so he's taken off of out of play, and so Sha now is sitting here like, I don't really know. I don't really see the dope game as a way to make it either. Maybe I need to start. Maybe I need to get to working on on this music thing too. And so, like I said, those kind of situations kind of brings everything to the finale. The 10th episode. Also, meantime, in this situation, Method Man's character, I thought they did a great job in kind of introducing where he was coming from and his backstory. And Meth just kind of stays close to what's going on throughout the episodes, and he's the only one that he really sees rhyming as the only way to make it. But, based on him kind of being raised in the streets by himself, bouncing around from family member to family member, ruining some situations, because out of being frustrated and being misguided and all of that type of stuff, and and kind of not seeing a way to really make it, although he's a talented guy, he does the right thing in not getting involved in the street game and either, going to prison or being killed in the streets. And as the group starts, the early pieces of the group starts to form, he's there and ready to chip in that way. And so then you get into like I said, into the 10th episode. I really liked, I thought it was excellent how they left it, where they killed the first season. And I thought that was done extremely well. I do have to give them that, because where they take it is the brothers, before Bobby gets really let go from the Tommy Boy situation, once his "We Love You, Rakim," that single doesn't do what they expected it to do, and they drop him. And then his business manager is like, "Bruh, I don't really have time for you. We tried we shot our shot. We missed. I'm working with the Genius. Figure it out on your own." But before they fully pulled a plug on Rakim, they made a song as the Wu-Tang Clan, and Bobby takes this back to the lady that he was working with, the exec over at Tommy Boy. He takes her to tape and is like, "Look, I know I just failed doing it your way, but I've rebranded myself already with my group, and let's knock it out this way," and gives her the tape. And that tape starts to circulate around, and I like how they did that too. It goes in a couple different boxes and gets put in some different hands. And as we get into the 10th episode, or to the finale, somebody listens to that tape, and nobody knows who the hell these guys are. They did introduce Steve Rifkin at a showcase event earlier in like the 7th or 8th episode or something, and he recalls the RZA's rhyming style and his subject matter, and he hears the tape. Steve Rifkin is the dude who started Loud Records, and so that's how it closes. That's finale. The finale is that Steve Rifkin is and this tape is bubbling around, and the woo is starting to grow. The only thing is, final thought, once again, every time they took some steps forward, of course you got to take the 2 steps back for every one forward. And the RZA actually went to go rectify a situation where a brother broke into the house and stole his music and wants to hold it for ransom. And RZA goes, the dude is like a super thug, and RZA is forced to go, and he tried to reason with the man. He didn't have the money that the individual thought that he had, and so the only thing was him and Dennis came to the conclusion that they had to off the brother. So a situation goes down where Bobby shoots the guy, and as a result, they got to get out of town. He couldn't kill him. He after he shot him and wounded him, but they got to leave the city because he left that loose end out there, and so Dennis and Bobby leave town to actually come to Ohio, which was another thing that we learned in the Showtime documentary, was that Bobby Diggs, the RZA, was actually in the state of Ohio here for some duration of time, where he also got heavily into his music, and putting together the early the first album, the Wu-Tang, the 36 Chamber joint. So they're going to Ohio because Mama Diggs, Eric Alexander, and Cherie, the daughter, and the youngest brother, Justice, or Randy was his name. Randy was his name. The father came home, I think, from prison himself, and they all had moved to Ohio just for a change of scenery, and things were going really well. So that's at the end of the 10th episode. Bobby and Dennis are going to Ohio to lay low for a while, and like I said, I thought it was an excellent cliffhanger for season 2. So like I said, man, this is 40 minutes long. I'm sure nobody is here this far along into it, but it's 10 episodes. I probably could have broken this down into 2 or 3 videos, and then nobody watches the second and third, so it is what it is. But like I said, man, at the beginning of this thing, I thought this was done very well by the team that actually fleshed it all out and made it into 10 episodes. Man, I was very impressed. So that's it. We'll see what happens in season 2. Nice play by Hulu and putting this thing together. And that's that, man. Let me get on off here. Like I said, this is Pay Me No Mind. My name is Wood. And remember, man, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.